The people of the area witnessed that scene with their own eyes, a scene that made everyone's soul tremble with fear. Khan Sahab, the same Khan Sahab whose status and wealth were always praised, had been missing for a whole week. A lock was hanging on the tall gates of the mansion, and no one knew what was happening inside. Then one day, suddenly, his 4 daughters informed everyone, "Our father has passed away." When the lock of the mansion was broken and his rotten, decomposed body was recovered from the room, the entire neighborhood was shocked. The condition of the body was so terrible that no one even dared to go near it. The news spread through the entire settlement like wildfire. People whispered among themselves, "Do wealthy people also die so alone and worthless? Where are the sons Khan Sahab was always so proud of?" The answer came when people saw Khan Sahab's 4 daughters, with trembling shoulders, carrying their father's corpse toward the graveyard. Their steps were heavy, as if they were carrying not a body, but the weight of their entire past. And those 2 sons, whom Khan Sahab took so much pride in, were nowhere to be seen. No sign of them at all. To the world, this scene was no less than a coffin of truth. The daughters, the same daughters who suffered all their lives, whose dreams were crushed, those same daughters were now giving their cruel father's corpse a shoulder. When they reached the graveyard, an even more shocking scene appeared. The body was placed on the ground, but no one stepped forward to lead the funeral prayer. People asked, "What sins did Khan Sahab commit that nobody even heard of his death for an entire week? Why was his body lying alone in a locked room? And what punishment was this that even his funeral feels abandoned?" In truth, this is a story of arrogance, cruelty, and loneliness. Khan Sahab was a hard-hearted and oppressive man who had no respect for women. He was cold, careless, and full of hatred toward women. In his life, women had no value or importance. The roots of this went back to his childhood. When he was born, his mother passed away. Deprived of a mother's love, Khan Sahab was raised by his father and grandfather. But the absence of a mother's affection hardened his heart. To him, the status of a woman was no more than that of livestock. In his youth, he misused his wealth, his power, and his status. Women were nothing but toys to him. Use them and throw them away. At some point, his father realized that he had made mistakes in raising his son, but by then, it was too late. After his father's death, Khan Sahab gained complete freedom. He married a poor and innocent girl named Nusrat. Nusrat was simple, quiet, and fearful, and Khan Sahab believed she would never interfere in his actions. 1 year after their marriage, Allah blessed them with twin daughters. Nusrat was overjoyed beyond measure, but for Khan Sahab it felt like doomsday. He went mad with anger and beat Nusrat mercilessly, blaming her, saying the daughters were born because of her. Nusrat kept writhing in pain, and with her tear-filled eyes she kept praying to Allah, asking for forgiveness for her sins and for the strength to endure. Khan Sahab announced in harsh and final words, "These girls will not stay in the mansion." That very day, both innocent baby girls were pushed into the old servant quarters built in the corner of the mansion, where an elderly maid took care of them. Nusrat would secretly go there, hold her daughters to her chest, cry and pray to Allah for patience. The little girls recognized only their mother, but they had no idea what their father looked like. 2 years later, Nusrat became pregnant again. Day and night she fell into prostration, praying for a son. This time her prayers were accepted. Allah blessed her not with 1, but 2 sons. Khan Sahab's happiness was visible on his face. He proudly said, "Now my head is raised high, my sons have saved my honor, daughters bring misfortune." That is when Nusrat finally realized why Khan Sahab hated daughters so much. The truth was, the women whose lives he destroyed had cursed him. Cursed that one day his own daughters would be the ones to carry the funeral of his honor. This fear had taken such a deep hold on his mind that every daughter appeared to him as a problem. Time passed quickly. Whenever Sajia and Natsia accidentally came into the mansion courtyard in front of him, he would roar in anger, "Get them out of my sight! The moment I see their faces, my blood begins to boil." Poor Nusrat would cry and plead, "They're your blood too." But Khan Sahab always ignored her cries. Carrying years of grief and humiliation, Nusrat's heart finally broke, and she left this world. A few days later, the elderly maid who cared for the girls also passed away. Now, in the entire mansion, there was no other woman except the two innocent sisters. Khan Sahab gave a strict order. "From today, both of you will do all the mansion work like servants." Tears rolled down the girls' eyes, but they did not refuse. In their hearts, there was only one small comfort, that maybe through this work they might get a chance to be near their father. Time kept passing. When the sons got married, Khan Sahab held such a grand celebration that the entire city talked about it. He spent millions of rupees, but did not spend a single penny on his daughters. No new clothes, no jewelry, no happiness. Sajia and Natsia continued living in worn-out old clothes. The most painful moment of their lives came when Khan Sahab said clearly, "Neither of you will step into the wedding procession. What will people say? Who are these unlucky girls? I cannot accept you both as my daughters." The two sisters, crying, returned to their old quarters. Natsia, sobbing, said, "What is our fault? Father threw us out of this mansion the day we were born." Sajia wiped her tears, hugged her, and said, "Have patience, sister. Allah is with those who are patient. Maybe one day our father's heart will soften for us." But the truth was, their father's heart was becoming even harder. Even their two sisters-in-law did not treat them as anything more than servants. Whenever Khan Sahab looked at his daughters, his anger would rise to the seventh sky. He feared that just as he had ruined the lives of other people's daughters, his own daughters would one day bring shame upon him. That is why he did not allow them to go outside, did not let them study, and did not let them meet anyone. Their entire world was confined only to the kitchen and the servant quarters. One day, a guest came to the mansion. By coincidence, he came across Natsia. With respect, Natsia guided him to the sitting room. It was a small, harmless act. But for Natsia, it became the reason for her near death. Khan Sahab grabbed hold of this tiny matter and accused Natsia. He beat her with a belt, and then he was preparing to pour oil on her and set her on fire. Sajia, trembling, fell before him with folded hands. "Abba Jan, my sister is innocent. Please spare her." But the fire in Khan Sahab's eyes was blazing. He roared loudly, "You two have now started covering my sins. You dare talk back to me. You laughed and joked with that boy. My elder daughter-in-law saw everything with her own eyes. Now no one can save this girl." In his rage, he called one of his new servants and right there forced his daughter's nikah with him. The servant was shocked, but he bowed his head before the master's command. After the nikah, Khan Sahab thundered, "Now she will never set foot in my mansion again." Natsia and Sajia held each other and cried for a long time. Natsia, sobbing, said, "Allah knows, sister. I don't know if we will ever meet again." When Natsia left, Sajia overheard her sisters-in-law talking. The elder one said, "See, one sister-in-law has been removed from the way. Now only one is left. I will soon get her out too." Sajia was convinced that this entire conspiracy had been planned by the elder daughter-in-law. She became even more cautious. But the scheming sister-in-law found her chance. One night when Sajia was working late in the kitchen, the sister-in-law's brother entered her quarter and tried to misbehave with her. Sajia screamed and begged with folded hands for the protection of her honor. Hearing her screams, everyone rushed in. But instead of the truth, lies were spoken. The elder daughter-in-law and her brother testified, saying that Sajia had called him herself. Khan Sahab's sons also supported this lie and said, "Throw this girl out of the house immediately." Blinded by rage, Khan Sahab, right then and there, forced Sajia's nikah with a man named Rahim, a drunkard, and in the darkness of the night she was dragged and thrown out of the mansion. A victorious smile appeared on the elder daughter-in-law's face. Sajia cried at her fate, but Allah had something else planned. Rahim, the very man who had once vowed to ruin her life, repented. He left his bad habits, worked hard in business, and became a responsible man. Sajia fell into prostration and said, "O Allah, 1,000 thanks to you for saving my life from destruction." Despite everything, there was still no hatred in Sajia's heart for her father. She would often call to ask about his well-being. Even if she received curses in return, she felt comfort simply hearing his voice. Rahim asked her in amazement, "Your father hates you so much. Then why do you still talk to him?" Satya said softly, "When I hear his voice, my heart becomes calm. I don't need anything else." Time kept passing. Keen Sahib's 2 sons transferred all his property into their names. They sold the mansion, divided the shares, and left their old father in a small rented flat. Now Khan Sahib was alone, and for the first time he began to realize his sins and mistakes. He thought, "For the sons I turned my face away from my daughters, those same sons have left me in this condition today." Khan Sahib now stayed alone in his room. His heart repeatedly remembered his daughters, the food made by their hands, their innocent talks, their smiles. Everything knocked on his heart like memories. But the same question kept making him cry again and again. With what face should I call my daughters? When I had wealth and status, I gave them nothing. Today, when I am alone, do I even have the right to call them? Time and grief made him weak. High fever had been breaking him for several days. He called his sons, but no one picked up the phone. The daughters-in-law even scolded him. "Don't call at odd times." In all this, only Sazia kept asking about his condition again and again. But to hide his weakness, he even stopped her from coming. Finally, one day came when he couldn't even get up from the bed to drink water. The intensity of hunger and thirst crushed him. He kept looking at the ceiling, and slowly, his soul separated from his body. Keen Sahib, without support or help, took his last breath alone in his own room. On the other side, Satya kept dialing Abba's number again and again, but the phone was coming switched off. Her heart trembled with fear of some tragedy. Rahim tried to comfort her, but Satya grew restless. At last she went with Rahim to the mansion where strangers were living. The neighbors told her that the sons had left their father in a small flat nearby, where he lived alone. Satya's heart sank. She ran there and said to Rahim, "Break the door." When the door opened, both of them were shaken by what they saw inside. Khan Sahib's body was several days old. The flesh had decayed. Maggots had appeared, and the room was filled with a terrible smell. Sadzia screamed and collapsed on the floor. People from the neighborhood gathered and began saying he got this end because he never valued his daughters. With tearful eyes, Satya silenced everyone. "Don't say such things about my father." The condition of the body was so bad that no one was willing to go near it. Satya immediately called her sister Natsia. Hearing the news, Natsia came running. Then only the 2 sisters and Rahim stepped forward and lifted the body. When the funeral reached the graveyard, people stepped back from offering the prayer. They said, "This man was a great sinner. We will not pray his funeral." But the Imam explained to the people, "The accounting of a person's deeds is done by Allah. We must fulfill our duty." Then the people agreed to pray. At that moment, both of Khan Sahib's sons also arrived. Everyone thought they had come to take part in their father's burial, but their intention was something else. They said to Satya, "Where are Abba's papers? We need the documents of the mansion and the property." Satya looked at them with cold and firm eyes and said, "This property is blessed to both of you. We had no relation with these things during Abba's life, and we have none after his death. The wealth he never gave us while he was alive. We don't want it after his death either." Saying this, both sisters left from there. Natsia's husband had become an officer, and Rahim's business was also at its peak. Both sisters were happy in their lives, but they often visited their father's grave, shed tears, and prayed. Their hearts found comfort in the fact that they didn't leave their father alone in his final moments. This story gives a lesson. Wealth, status, and arrogance blind a person. But when time turns, that same person is left alone, the one for whom he sacrificed even his own family.